We turn now to the governor of Missouri, Democrat Jay Nixon. He joins us from St. Louis. Governor, thank you. Well, I know there was some problems after midnight when the curfew went into effect. One man was shot. I believe they've established it was not a policeman who shot him. But do you have any information on how that came about, and is there a suspect on that?
Well, first of all, there were thousands of folks out there last night, and when the curfew approached, I think with the colonel of the Highway Patrol and Captain Johnson and others being in that community and being prepared last night, those outsiders, some of the folks that were in there last night, obviously. We thought that last night was better, but as far as the shooting, it was not involving law enforcement last night. It was a private matter, and we'll chase down what happened as the day goes on.
Well, do you have things? Do you consider them under control this morning?
Well, we feel much better. Obviously, when we saw in the middle part of the week the increased militarization of the police response and the response from the community, I mean, this has been a week in which Michael Brown was shot dead by a police officer in his own hometown. And that has brought out great emotions and appropriate concern. And so when we saw that increased militarization, I made the unique action to put our Highway Patrol and then bring in Captain Johnson on the ground in that community, from that community, to help lead that. That first night was pretty peaceful. The second night went relatively well until very late, and we saw some looting, and that's why I declared a curfew with the request from the local officials. And last night, no property damage of any significant sort, and of the thousands of folks there, certainly there were 7 folks that had to be detained and arrested, but most of those folks, aren't directly from that area. So we're hopeful that we're making progress. I think it's right for people to grieve. I think it's right for people to speak, and it's important that we get justice in this matter. And the dual investigations being done by the local prosecutor and justice will come to their conclusion.
Governor, you removed the local police department basically from having anything to do with this situation. How badly did they? What? I just don't get it. Everywhere they turn, they seem to do the wrong thing, and the last thing being releasing that video, which seemed to just really inflame people. Do you think that made the situation worse?
Oh, we didn't have any knowledge about that. I think the Justice Department also indicated they didn't think it should be released, and I think it had an incendiary effect. I mean, when you release pictures and you clearly are attempting to besmirch a victim of a shooting, shot down a young man in his own street, and at the same time you're releasing information to try to make it to tarnish him, then properly. There was a lot of folks that were concerned about that, and I do think it flamed it back up and has caused us to have to deal with some of that. But those are real emotions. People need to grieve and they need to speak, but we also need to keep the rule of law and peace, and we're trying to balance all three of those. I think last night we made progress, and we're going to continue over the next days as these dual investigations continue to try to keep that balance of letting people speak, grieve, be heard, but keep the peace.
If criminal charges are to be filed against this police officer, who will file them? Because I know there are some down there saying there ought to be a special prosecutor appointed here.
I mean, this is a career prosecutor at the local level who has a real opportunity to step up. I think it's going to be assisted by the fact that there's a dual investigation going on with the Justice Department and the FBI. I do know that after I talked to General Holder the next day, there were 40 additional FBI agents on the ground here. I appreciate that deeply. Out there doing interviews in the neighborhood, a real presence and a real sense that we need to get to justice here. I think having those dual investigations operating at the same time makes it much more likely that this case gets the attention and the justice it deserves. But this investigation must be thorough and complete in order to get justice.
You stepped into this situation 5 days after it happened. If you had it to do over, Governor, would you have stepped in sooner?
Well, you always want to make sure that these problems have to be solved at the local level, and long after our highway patrolmen are back doing their jobs, you're going to have other police in those areas. So we wanted to. But when I saw the military vehicles rolling up, when I saw guns pointed at kids, when I saw the reaction that was getting, I knew there needed to be a change. And that's why I took the unprecedented action at that time to call in our Highway Patrol, and especially Captain Johnson from that neighborhood to lead that. And I thought that first night as he joined in, and even last night when he and the colonel of the Highway Patrol marched with folks and talked to them, I think we're making progress. But people need the right to grieve. They need the right to speak. But we need to get justice here. I did take unprecedented action there. I think it will pay off here, and we're focused on doing what we can to keep the peace while giving people the right to speak and grieve while these dual investigations get to justice.
Well, Governor, we'll let you get back to work. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Bob.